Welcome to our space of hope and inspiration, where faith is ignited and the Word of God finds us right where we are. Thank you for being here and for allowing us to walk with you. There are moments in life when the noise of the world becomes deafening. News, problems, responsibilities, expectations. Everything seems to scream at once. And the worst part is that the most important voice, the one inside, is drowned out amidst so much chaos. You wake up in the morning with a racing heart. You look at your phone, check messages, accounts, and you feel like the day has barely begun, but you're already tired. Tired of the invisible weight you carry in your chest, of the worry that doesn't stop even when you close your eyes at night. And then, without looking for it, you remember a phrase, a promise you once heard. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. Ancient words, yet with a power that transcends centuries, cultures, storms, and souls. To dwell in the shelter of the Most High. Have you ever stopped to consider what that means? It doesn't say the one who visits. It doesn't say the one who peeks in from time to time. It says the one who dwells, the one who lives there, the one who stays, the one who chooses to remain, even when everything outside is crumbling. Many of us have learned to visit faith, but not to dwell in it. We go to God when things get complicated, when the storm rages, when there is no plan B. But when the sun rises again, we return to the noise, the rush, as if the shadow of the Almighty were only a temporary refuge and not a permanent home. Dwelling in His shadow does not mean fleeing the world. It means learning to live in the midst of the world, but with a peace that the world cannot give or take away. It means knowing you can walk among giants without fear, because you are not alone. That you can cross the dark valley without losing your way, because there is a divine shadow covering you. Imagine this. A small child walks with his father under a blazing sun. The child doesn't understand the path, doesn't know the route, doesn't even know how far it is. But there is one thing he does know. As long as he walks in his father's shadow, he will be safe. The heat doesn't burn him. Fear doesn't overwhelm him. Insecurity doesn't stop him, because his safety isn't in the landscape, but in His presence. That is the shelter of the Most High. It is not a physical place. It is a presence that covers you, an atmosphere that surrounds you, a certainty that dwells within you. And if you have ever felt like the world is crashing down on you, you need to hear this. Your refuge is not far away. Your refuge is in the one who has never moved. When the psalmist wrote those words, he didn't do so from a tranquil palace, nor from a perfect life. He wrote them from a heart that knew war, loss, and fear. But he also knew God's faithfulness. He knew that even in the midst of battle, there was a shade where he could rest. A shade that doesn't depend on the weather, but on the Creator. And here is the truth that changes everything. It's not the same to live under pressure as it is to live under protection. And many live oppressed because they have forgotten what it is to dwell in the shadow of the Almighty. How many times have you tried to carry it all alone? You tried to control, solve, plan, understand, until something broke inside you. And in that silence, when you no longer knew what to do, you realized something, that the power that sustains you is not in your strength, but in His shadow. The shadow of God is not a weak metaphor. It is a living promise. It is a reminder that you don't have to face everything without shelter, that there is a spiritual refuge available 24/7, even when you don't feel it. Because faith isn't always felt. Sometimes it's simply inhabited. Think about this. When you are in the shadow, you don't see the full sun, but you feel its effect. That is what the presence of God is like. Maybe you don't see it in every detail, but it is there. His shadow cools you when the heat of fear burns you. His shadow covers you when the words of the world wound. His shadow embraces you when loneliness screams too loudly. And then, little by little, you learn to stay there. Not to flee, not to run, not to try to understand everything. You learn to inhabit. Inhabiting is different from visiting. Visiting is praying only when it hurts. To dwell is to pray even when everything is going well. To visit is to seek God when there is no other way out. To dwell is to walk with Him even when there is no danger. And when you dwell in His shadow, something changes within you. Your language changes. Your mind calms. Your heart expands. You begin to understand that life is not about avoiding storms, but about having a refuge when they arrive. There are people who spend their whole lives trying to build their own shelter, a shelter made of money, recognition, power, control. But every human shelter has leaks. Every shelter built with pride collapses in the storm. There is only one shelter that does not wear out with time. The shelter of the Most High, and the good news is that you don't have to deserve it. Just accept it. You don't have to understand everything. Just dwell in it. Because dwelling is not an act of perfection, but of trust. When anxiety tells you, you won't be able to. When fear whispers, you'll fall again. Remember, you're not out in the open. You're under a shadow. And not just any shadow. The shadow of the Almighty. The same one who raised mountains. The same one who calms storms. The same one who holds you when you can't go on. And something powerful happens when you understand this. You stop running. You stop fighting against everything and everyone. You begin to rest. And in that rest, life settles. Thoughts align. Wounds begin to heal. And the soul breathes again. Perhaps you're going through a time where everything seems uncertain. Maybe the diagnosis came without warning. Maybe a door closed. Maybe loneliness has made you doubt even yourself. But listen, you're not unprotected. The shadow of the Almighty covers you. Even when you don't feel it, even when your prayers seem to hit the ceiling, even when the answer is slow in coming, because He's not just in the miracles, He's also in the process. And sometimes, the greatest miracle isn't that things change, but that you change while you wait. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High is not someone without problems. He is someone who has learned to trust in the midst of them. He is someone who, instead of fleeing the fire, takes refuge in His shadow until the storm passes. And when it passes, he doesn't emerge the same. He emerges stronger, wiser, more aware that power lies not in the absence of difficulty, but in the constant presence of the one who shelters. That's why today I want to invite you to something more than a prayer. I invite you to a change of spiritual residence, to move into the shelter of the Most High. To this CD that, whatever happens, you will no longer live in the open air, exposed to fear, guilt, or loneliness, but covered, protected, at peace. And if you don't know where to begin, don't worry. No one is born knowing how to dwell. You learn, step by step. You learn by talking to Him, even without perfect words. You learn by making space in your mind for stillness. You learn by remembering each day that you are not alone. Because dwelling in His shadow isn't about religion. It's about relationship. It's about allowing God to be your refuge, not just your resource. It's about learning to breathe under His covering and to see life from His shadow. And as you dwell there, you will see how things begin to take shape. Fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its power. Wounds don't disappear, but they heal. Not all questions are answered, but they no longer control you. Because in His shadow there is peace. In His shadow there is purpose. In His shadow there is rest. If this message touched your heart like it helped others find it, subscribe to Gokrip, a truth that not only inspires, transforms. Leave your prayer request in the comments. We are praying for you. You are not alone. This is not just a channel. It's a community where faith becomes practice, where hope is shared, and where the shadow of the Almighty becomes a home. Here we talk about what's real, how to heal, how to move forward, how to believe, even when you don't understand. Here we remember together that life isn't about being invulnerable, but about knowing where to take refuge. Subscribe to Gokrip. Turn on notifications and allow the shelter of the Most High to become your constant guide, day by day. For he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. And in that shadow, there is always light. In that silence, there is always a voice. And in that refuge, there is always life. Imagine it's raining very hard. The wind blows, thunder rumbles, and the raindrops pound the ground. You are that little boy running in the rain, searching for shelter. And suddenly, you see a large house with an open door and a light on. There is your father, waiting for you with open arms. You enter, soaked and shivering. But as soon as you close the door behind you, everything changes. The storm continues outside, but you are safe. That house, that embrace, that protection is the shelter of the Most High. To dwell in the shadow of the Almighty means to live with the awareness that God is that constant refuge. No matter what happens outside, there is a place inside where nothing can touch you. The psalmist didn't write this from a place of comfort. He wrote this psalm while fleeing, while facing war, fear, and betrayal. He didn't speak from calm, but from the storm. And yet, he dared to say, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." That is fight. Faith is not denying the storm. It is remembering who is with you in it. Let me tell you a story related to this truth. During World War II, in England, there was a Christian family living near London. Every night, when enemy planes attacked, the sirens would wail, and everyone would run to the shelters. But one day, one of the children, a boy of about 8, disappeared during a bombing raid. The mother went out desperately to look for him in the chaos, and found him sitting under a tree, looking up at the sky. She called out to him, "Son, why didn't you run to the shelter?" And the boy replied with impressive calm, "Mom, I was reciting Psalm 91. If God is my refuge, then I'm already home." That boy understood something many adults forget. True refuge doesn't always have walls. It has presence. Now, let me share a more recent story, one that could be yours. A few years ago, a woman named Mariana lost her job overnight. She was a single mother with 2 young children. For weeks, she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts of how she would pay the rent, how she would put food on the table. One early morning, as she wept silently, she remembered a verse her grandmother had taught her as a child: "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." That night, she repeated it over and over, not as a magic formula, but as an anchor. She wrote it on a piece of paper and stuck it to her mirror. Every morning, she read it aloud, and little by little, something inside her changed. The money didn't appear out of nowhere. The problems didn't disappear, but her heart calmed down. She found peace in the midst of chaos. Weeks later, someone called her with a job offer better than she had imagined. And when she signed the contract, she looked up and whispered, "Thank you for your shade, Lord." That's the difference between fear and faith. Fear makes you run from the storm. Faith teaches you to stay in His shade until it passes. Now, I want to invite you to do an exercise. 1 in the morning, before checking your phone, say aloud or in your mind, "Today I choose to dwell in the shelter of the Most High." 2, when you feel anxious, stop for a second and ask yourself, "Am I living in the open air, ... or in the shade?" 3, at night, write a single sentence in a notebook. "Today, under God's shadow, I noticed that." It could be, I breathed more easily. I didn't react with anger. I felt peace, even though everything was wrong. Don't forget to subscribe to Gokrip. Thanks for listening. See you soon.